that you can see the
Yep.
slide.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's get the show on the road. Welcome everyone to the last session of our Agile Week. Today we are going to have a roundtable discussion with our guest experts. Before we start, as always, this session is being recorded and it will be available on view by demand. There are no slides to be shared, unfortunately, for this session, so only a recording. Again, before we start, just a few words about our chapter. We are kind of small, but very active chapter. At least we do our best. So if you would like to participate in events similar to this one or any other project management activities, you are more than welcome to email us to join us. We also organize some mentoring, a lot of volunteering and self-development opportunities. And you don't have to be from Luxembourg specifically to be a chapter member. We accept members from worldwide. Besides the Agile Week, we have a lot of other events already in the pipeline. These are not all of them, but those are the ones that are more or less confirmed. So if you have enjoyed the sessions in the Agile Week, we truly hope we will see you in our following events as well. And if you'd like to know when exactly those events will take place, the best thing to do is either to follow up on our newest webpage or just to follow any of our social media accounts. Before we kick off today's discussion, I would again like to thank our event sponsor, INTRASOFT, and our event partner for supporting us in this Agile Week and providing speakers and helping us also with the organization of the entire event. ALVISSION also has a special offer. So if you're a chapter member, you can get a 10% discount for discipline Agile trainings. If you're not a chapter member, you can become one, and then you can still get the discount. So contact us at membership@pmi.lu if you are interested and if you want to become a member. Today, like I said, we have a roundtable discussion with our experts. I will be your host. By the way, I'm Alan Pekic. I'm the director of events, and our co-host is Nasos, our director of communications. Nasos, say hi to people.
Hi, everybody.
And now I will let our experts introduce themselves. Katerina, shall we start with you?
Okay, well, many years in the IT world. I'm now a corporate project governance and QA director at INTRASOFT International. To keep the long story short, the last 2 years, we're running the Agile transformation at INTRASOFT for the whole organization. So I hope I will express as much as possible the lessons learned for also the rest to join. And thank you very much for inviting me to participate. Thank you, PMI Luxembourg.
Thank you, Katerina.
Thank you, Thierry.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Thierry. I'm a partner at PwC in Luxembourg, working in the technology consulting area. I'm also leading the data and artificial intelligence services of PwC. Now, I think that among these all these people at the round table, I'm the less expert because I'm not an Agile expert, but we are using Agile either for my projects, mostly the digital transformation project, where we use Agile. But I've also been involved into some internal transformation at PwC, involving also Agile methodology.
Thank you, Thierry. Antje.
And, yeah, I'll go next. Hi, everyone. Also for me, I'm Antje Lehmann-Benz, based in Munich in Germany. I'm a project management trainer and Agile trainer and coach, and disciplined Agile certified instructor, and part of Frank Tassone's and ALVISSION's instructor team. Happy to be a part of that European team. I had the honor to be allowed to kick off this series together with Philip Diebold, who's also part of our trainer team, on Monday with an introduction to disciplined Agile. Maybe some of you were there. And now I'm basically coming back. I've been watching a bit what you were doing throughout this entire week. It's so impressive. And thank you for inviting me and having me here.
You're most welcome. Frank?
Yeah, hi, my name is Frank Tassone. I'm managing director and founder from ALVISSION Training, and I'm happy to partner with PMI Luxembourg for this Agile Week, and I'm also a PMI Luxembourg member since few years. So I'm and I'm happy to offer you also some benefits if you are member from PMI Luxembourg Chapter with our trainings. And yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward for a really good discussion.
Thank you. And last but not least, our trouser-wearing colleague from Canada, Daniel.
Yes. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, PMI Luxembourg. So Daniel Gagnon from Montreal, Canada. I've been being Agile for the last 10 years and almost as long DA. I've implemented DA type approaches and used the toolkit in very large organizations, 90,000 employees, also 12 person startups. So I'm, a lot of actual in the trenches experience with that. But also I'm basically a trainer. I've trained, thousands of people, not just in DA, but in Scrum and SAFe and other approaches. And in 2019, after years of really getting under Mark and Scott's skin with my constant suggestions and ideas, they finally tried to get rid of me by making me a Discipline Agile fellow, but it only encouraged me to be worse, so it backfired. So more than glad to be here today, and hopefully I won't be too bothersome.
Thank you, Daniel. So this being an Agile week and all sessions being Agile related, let's start with how would you guys define agility? What agility represents to you? Shall we start with Thierry, Katerina, and Daniel?
Sure.
Okay, I can start if you would like. So for me, and again, I'm not an expert, so maybe I won't give the official definition. But for me, agility means flexibility. It means how do you overcome barriers, find solutions. It means also an iterative work. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is feedback, feedback, and feedback.
Thank you. Katerina?
Well, what I learned and what is my saying for agility, fall fast, stand up fast, learn, feedback, feedback, feedback. This is one of the characteristics for me as agility.
Okay, thank you. Daniel?
Why do tomorrow what you can do immediately and find out from, even if it's only a smaller version of it. So constant learning and feedback, that loop. And that says it all at a very high level.
So basically what you are saying is that, for at least for you, if I understood all three of you correctly, that the essence is try to see whatever issues are waiting for you as soon as you can, and then fix them in the beginning rather than facing them in the middle or at the end of the project when they're harder to correct. So that's why you said fail and then fail fast and stand up even faster, if I understood correctly. Okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely. And if you think about all our answers, we're really talking about risk management.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Basically, you are facing the issues early on, or even knowing that some of the risks are not risks, but they're actual issues, and then you deal with them, and then you move forward. Okay. Yep. What differences have you guys observed in how different frameworks or methodologies are defined, or as they are in theory, and versus how are they actually implemented? Because when we speak of Agile, we now, of course, we have the Scrum, we have SAFe, we have Discipline Agile. So we have many different approaches. So I wouldn't go into discussing differences between them now, but how do you see Agile generally being preached or taught in theory versus what happens actually in practice? Can we have maybe Frank and Antje kick off the discussion?
Yeah, from my opinion, that you know it. We have, for example, a Scrum guide with 14, 15, 16 pages. It's really easy to read, but it's so hard, yeah, to apply it in the organizations. And that we have seen now for about 20 years. And we had so many problems, not only with Scrum, also with other approaches and other methods and instruments. So we need the flexibility. We need we must act regarding the context, and the most important is we must act also regarding the skill level and the maturity, the agile maturity of the teams and from the employees. What we must
So you're basically saying that the same framework or same methodology, whichever it is, should then still be considered, or we should tailor it based on the company and their experience, and not fully implement it as written, but to adjust and I guess apply agility to the framework itself, if I understood you correctly.
Yeah, the problem is that we have no framework fits all requirements what we need, or all needs from the organizations, so that we must scale it. And the problem is that some frameworks that are really so restricted that we have not the chance to scale it, and so we it's too enforced for the organization, and that's the pity.
Okay, Antje?
Yeah, I can only double down on what Frank just said. So coming back, or maybe also to the question, what is agility to us? It's definitely not a one size fits all kind of approach. It is constant learning. That also means, you know, be situational, have situational intelligence. And I think the name discipline Agile is not a coincidence. We see teams struggle with their agility and their attempts at agility, although it's certainly not the team's fault. It's certainly not the framework's fault. It's that they're using. It's just there is more guidance needed that is sometimes hard to find. And disciplined Agile tries to give that guidance and has its own way of doing that by being agnostic, by saying we don't care what, you know, where you come from. We're going to look at your situation, assess it, and take it from there and improve from there. And that's something that I'm not sure any other approach that has been developed so far has really tried to do, including all the ones you were mentioning earlier, Alan. So yeah, that's for me the strength of discipline Agile, bringing discipline back into Agile not by finger pointing, however, or claiming we will now do it perfect overnight just by looking at discipline Agile and that's it, but by really introducing intelligent guidance, you know, to help people get to that level of discipline that they would surely like to have. So address their struggles.
Katerina, you managed a large agile transformation in INTRASOFT, so I think you're a really good candidate to answer this question. So, because I imagine before you started, you looked at the market, what's available, experience of other companies. So what was the main difference between what you have read or known before in theory, and then what actually happened when you guys started your transformation journey?
The most important thing is what every one of us is saying right now, that you need to tailor, to adapt. Nothing fits, and especially in an organization like INTRASOFT International with the variety of business, of projects, of products. Never in the world would one model, framework, practice would fit all. So that's one thing that I want everyone leaving the floor today from our participants to remember. The other thing, you know, if I need to go into a little bit more in the Agile transformation, okay, someone starting this journey should have in mind and very clear why, because it's another thing, you know, taking a project or your product development and turning it agile, and it's another thing saying that you're moving a whole organization and doing the agile transformation, which people did not have this clear. It needs to be clear the why, and like with all transformations, where to start with, which is a very difficult to take the decision. And over and above, the means to scale up this whole thing, which means that you need to have the knowledge, see what to tailor, see into the functions of the company that will be involved. It's a tremendous journey. Like, you need to take under consideration not only the engineering. This is what I want to point out. It's not only software development when you're talking about agile transformation.
We actually have a follow-up question in the chat. And before we continue, just to guys let you know, this discussion is open to all of you as well. So feel free to type any questions you have in the chat and we will follow them up as well. So a small clarification, because some of you have mentioned that the Agile doesn't fit all. So the clarification that Philippe is asking, did you mean specific Agile frameworks or methodology, or agility mindset culture in general doesn't fit all and maybe some companies shouldn't even consider Agile? Should we have the same? Yeah, go ahead.
So, okay. Agile, first of all, is a mindset. It's the manifesto. How you're going to implement it, it's, when you're talking about scaling up. And so this, for me, I'm in this journey 3 years now for the Agile transformation. It reminds me in the late 90s, whoever was born from our attendees, how we were delivering projects those days. T-shirt teams, people talking a lot with each other. The whole transformation, and when we're talking about Agile, is mindset. So if you're gonna use Scrum, Kanban, user stories, story points, effort, or whatever, that's another thing when you're talking about Agile transformation, if you ask me.
Frank and Danielle, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I can jump in quickly. So basically I see here in the chat, it was Philip saying basically, yeah, Agile does not fit all. What was meant was no single Agile method, and I think Katerina brought this out very clearly. No single method can fit everything, right? As a mindset, I often said, just because you're a team that is doing routine updates to a database, or just because you're an HR team that are rewriting certain job profiles, or just because you're a marketing team that are working on events, doesn't mean you can't have an Agile mindset. Even though your process may be sequential, you can be, think about what we said earlier. The Agile mindset is about learning fast, reducing risk quickly, etc. So any team in any industry can absolutely benefit from that without necessarily having to rely on the use of a pre-established Agile methodology. So it's a good point that we make that difference. I agree.
Frank?
Yeah, and from my side, we can see it. We can see it. Yeah, also on the hybrid needs for projects. We will also in future we will work in line organizations. We will not work in network organizations, in holistic organizations. So we have so many different needs from the organizations that we must try to apply the method, the instruments, what is needed and what fit in this context and situation. And it is not only agile, it is also, we are talking about predictive, that it makes no sense to build a bridge over the river here in Saarbrücken really with Scrum methods. Yeah, so we will have also in the future, we will have different contexts, and we need to know the broad base on different agile methods, instruments, approaches, that we can make the choice what in this situation fits the best for the teams or for the organization. So it's really it's a discussion about mindset, yes, of course, but it is also needed to know what is possible and what tools, methods, and instruments we have to solve the problems and to support the solutions.
Thank you.
So if I can continue, Alan, with a question, we are discussing about the why do this agile transformation and getting into this difficult journey. So what are, at your opinion, are some basic misconceptions people often have about agile development, about agile transformation? So Daniel and Frank, what do you believe, having seen so many organizations?
Daniel?
Frank just spoke, so I'll move over. So the biggest misconception still today, unfortunately, and oddly enough, is that it's only an IT thing. Nothing could be further from the truth, as a matter of fact. And I'm going to take this bully pulpit for 1 second to say that I hate the term business agility. Do you know why? For two reasons. The first reason is not everything is a business. You have not-for-profits. I've worked a lot in government, municipal, federal, provincial. You say business agility, you're excluding a large portion of the economy. The second reason I hate business agility is because the expression is because it sounds like, okay, you IT people, you've been doing this agile thing for 25 years, you've failed, move over. The adults in the business are going to try it now. So for those two reasons, I prefer the term organizational agility, because everything is an organization as long as you've got two people. So that's, now I've got that out of the way, I feel much better. I can continue with my day now. Thank you for listening. And yes, so it's the misconception that it's only an engineering thing. It's a misconception that it's only a software thing. Look at LeanPub, which is a self-publishing platform. I've bought many of the last books that I've bought basically have been authored on LeanPub, where the author actually creates the book chapter by chapter. Sometimes you basically subscribe to the book in flight. So what's that got to do with software? Nothing. So, but if you want to look at the sort of where agility started in sort of software development organizations or large companies or whatever, it has to go beyond the IT department. It has to go from the enterprise architecture right down to the call center and everything in between. Right?
Yeah, it's not so difficult to start with agility in projects or with agile methods instruments to apply this in the projects. We have so many possibilities and so many experience with within the last 20 years. But for the organizational agility, it's another focus, because we have all in one, and the whole enterprise has to start an evolution to get more and more agile, and that for this we need not only the operational approach or the operational focus to start with agility in projects or on the product levels. We need also the top-down approach, that we must start with strategy, that the organizations are able either to get more and more agile, and if they have this on the strategy, we must bring it top down, bottom up, and on the middle from the organization side. I call it a multi-nucleus strategy is needed to get more and more agile.
So it's not only IT, it's a multi-nucleus strategy, eh?
Best.
Exactly. So we have started discussing about methodologies and frameworks, and all this stuff. But for us as professionals, the other side of the same coin is certification. And how much importance do you believe that agile certifications or certification in general are necessary for the recruitment process or the evolution process of us as professionals? So what do you think, Thierry, Katerina, and Anya?
Okay, if I can start.
Yes, Thierry, yes.
Yes, so we like certifications because obviously as a consulting company, certifications give comfort, to our clients that our people have the right skills. So for sure, we like it. But for me, it's even more important for the people themselves, because I think that having a training is good, but having a training with a certification gives you an objective, and you need to be more involved. It motivates, I think, people. And at the end of the day, that certification is a kind of a reward for the person, a reward for skills that have been acquired. And for me, it is absolutely critical.
Okay, great. Katerina?
Mic, sorry, I was trying to find a mic. I fully agree with Thierry. For us also, okay, since the clients are requesting it, we cannot say no. But the most important thing is that when you're doing a change, as we are here at INTRASOFT, it's very important to reward also the people. So this is something that they see it also they take it as a benefit for them also. What's there in for me? Okay, I'm gonna also not just follow a training, I'll be also certified. So this is something that I wanted to say on top of what Thierry added. And I'm fully aligned with Thierry.
Maybe a sub question, because I see there is something similar also in the audience. Do you look at the certification as a, let's say, minimum requirement, perhaps when you're hiring, or basically it's a piece of paper that says at minimum this person understands the topic? Because at least from my experience, you cannot really quantify or test experience in a test session, because I mean, I also have a PMP, ACP, RMP, PSM, everything. So yes, on paper, it looks great, but anyone can study and pass the exam. And then I start working and you find out I'm terrible. So how to find this delicate balance?
You want both.
Okay. So basically
it's a pity when people have the knowledge and the experience and they cannot, objectively in one line prove it. Mm-hmm. And also on the other hand, when someone has a certificate, it doesn't mean that they know. Mm-hmm. So for me, you should combine both.
Mm-hmm. So it's like an entry ticket. Without it, you cannot participate. If you have it, then you get a seat at the table, and then we see, do you actually know how to work and perform, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
But for me, in terms of recruitment, it's not mandatory to have all kinds of certifications, because this is something people can acquire if needed. But indeed, the real life experience and the behavioral skills are also very important, and probably more important than, or for sure more important than a piece of paper with a certification.
Antje, would you like to chip in from your perspective as a trainer, someone who prepares people for the certificates?
Certifications, that is true, but I'm also a practitioner. Mm-hmm. These days, I am in both sides of the business, theory and practice, and I do actually also perceive those, like Katerina said, as two pillars, like not one against the other. Daniel before said something that he hates. There's something I hate too, which is when people say like, those theorists, they have no idea about practice. Let them be one day in practice and they'll screw it all up. Or the other way around, those practitioners who just work with their sleeves up, their arms, and don't know what they're really doing. And I think it's a tedious discussion. I think we should make sure as professionals that we have both a solid theoretical foundation in our work and have our reality checks with practical project life, whichever way that happens. I think staying up to date with that is also important. I think we need both. Of course, it needs to be balanced. And at some points in your life, you will probably focus more on practical project work. In others, you will focus more on your education. And I would say don't lose touch with any of those. It's really, it's all important. And to bring those together is actually the best thing. So I'm really grateful for my own certifications, and not just because I'm a trainer and need those for my own work, for my trainings, but also because they do help me. It's not always visible at first glance, but sometimes I run into situations and I'm thinking, that's exactly what we discussed in the training the other day, and it's so important, and here it happens, and it does help me, that knowledge. It's just not maybe always so direct or so tangible, but it's there. Like in the background when you need it, that theoretical knowledge, and certification training can really help you get that in the area that you need. Of course, it's not about just collecting certifications like others collect stamps. You need to be also like really careful in selecting what you like, and that's Philip's addition to the, Philip, so glad to have you here. The discussion also said that please look at which certification is right for you, just like which agile approach is right for you. It's also the same here, but then it can really make a difference for you, I think. That's my take.
Speaking of theory and practice, there is a question in the audience that I think could be interesting. So one of the question is, how do you measure progress in an agile transformation? So let's hear, for example, from Frank, how it should be on paper, and then let's see from Katerina what INTRASOFT actually did and how did you measure your progress?
Yeah, first of all, the measurement from the progress of an agile transformation is that the agility, yeah, will get in the organizational DNA. Yeah, that's the people is yeah, working and is living also the principles first, and it's difficult to measure, but you can measure how is the change, or in what kind of range is the change from the tradition, or from the actual yeah, working, or from the actual yeah, methods and instruments they use, go more and more in agile development, in agile evolution. And yeah, you can normally you should also measure it with hard key performance indicators, with yeah, the time to market, or also the response times, and many things. It's really different. How do you measure an agile evolution in an organization?
I just love this question. Did anyone from my management come pinpoint this? Okay, well, it's difficult. It's difficult to measure. And even like if it was my investment, you know, everyone wants to see if it's paying off. So, and coming from a QA background also, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. This is what we're saying as QAs. So it's difficult to measure, but of course, we are measuring people engagement. This is something that we had at INTRASOFT even before Agile came on board as a transformation. You can measure speed and delivery, quality of products, of your services, test efficiency, productivity. What is difficult in Agile transformation is to compare, like with this project, like I have projects running waterfall, and I have projects running Agile. And the one running waterfall is also successful. It's difficult to compare. And especially when a new project is starting, you cannot compare if you don't have historical data. So at the long run, it depends on the company if they have historical data, a central database. Compare yourself with organizations outside. But over and above, to keep the long story short, you can set your KPIs, but they need to be across as a program, measure the program as such, you know, your program increments. This is what we are doing, your milestones, how many story points, the business value, like it's really Agile wise. So as a program Agile, like a project manager, but I'm the chief program owner, we're measuring the KPIs, the business related KPIs, and also the soft ones, like people engagement and these kind of stuff. It's not easy. And for me, you need to measure it at some point. And to close the answer from my point, don't start measuring from the beginning. we started having measurements after, you know, at the corporate level to see how Agile is going as a transformation after the first year and a half. Because then we knew what we wanted. If we started to measure from the beginning of the Agile transformation, it wouldn't work. So this is, you know, we started some way in the half measuring.
I have a follow-up question before Nasos takes over. So it's kind of linked with this question. So I would say that at the core of Agile is trust, because at certain point you have to accept and say, we don't know, because that's the whole point of Agile, to work with what you know and move forward. And especially if you are working with a new technology, something experimental and so on. How do you as a company build trust with your customer that they're okay with you saying we don't know? Because people are used to scope, budget, time, and so on. And me coming, for example, from European institutions where we work with public money, we are very strict with our contracts and deliveries and what's expected and so on. So how do you foster this relationship with your partner, that they trust you enough not to measure everything and have the KPI and have the standard, let's say, practices you would use in a waterfall project? Can we start with maybe Daniel and Thierry, if you have experience maybe from PVC point of view, how do you work with your customers and get them on your side as well?
Thierry, you want to start? I can start. This is something that I have, this has been very near to my heart, this precise question for years. And you know what my best answer has become? The only way to establish trust is by delivering. And how do you get to the point where you're delivering? Well, how do you establish that trust if the mechanisms are, you know, very punitive, and you have very sort of sequential waterfall type contracts and so on? What you need to do is start small and experiment with one ally somewhere, somehow within the organization, and start proving that this actually works. Because no one in the organization is actually going to believe this works if you know, if you haven't done it in the organization. You can show them videos, you can send them white papers, you can send them to conferences, you can do lunch and learns, you can have them read articles, you can have them take courses, you can shower them with books. Until you deliver something that they have paid for quicker and with better quality, they won't trust it. So you are condemned to deliver. That is the only way. And it sort of ties into one answer that I would have given to the previous point. How do you measure satisfied customers? That's the ultimate measure that counts, really. Satisfied customers and engaged teams. So how do you get to satisfied customers? By delivering. How do you deliver? By starting small enough and you know, with safe to fail sort of smaller experiments where you can actually say, go, see, that went well. Are you ready for a bit more? Can we go a bit bigger? Can we go a bit bigger? Okay. So it's the only way, progressively. And
Thierry, I mean, you coming from a financial sector, I imagine rules are even stricter than usual there. So how does this work with agility?
I think for me, at the end of the day, you can. The point is, people feel that if you tell them, I don't know how much it will cost, I don't know where I will land, or what will be the final outcome, people are very surprised and very negative, and indeed it's often very difficult discussions. But at some point, they need to understand, and they understand that by having this all these feedback sessions, all these interactions, at the end of the day, you have much more control than if you sign something more waterfall and you say, I'm going to pay so much money, and at the end of the day, I will pray that I will get the expected outcome, you know. And I think that people, as soon as you start, they understand that, and they understand that there is much more control, because at every point, or very regularly, they can adapt, change, realign, or even stop the project. And as soon as they understand this, I think it works well. But this doesn't mean that you don't have other issues. And for me, my experience also is that if you want to make it work, and if clients or companies, organizations are not used to Agile, then you see a lot of barriers along the way. It can be budgetary barriers. It can be, things like procurement cycles. And there are a lot of things to change if you really want to be able to work Agile. And I've spent quite some time on different projects telling people for every barrier that is coming along the way to tell them, look, no, we must work differently. We must be flexible. You need to change your process. You need to do it. Don't try to hide you behind a policy or procedure. We need to adapt it, which means that in many occasions, what I propose is to work in parallel rather than sequential. For instance, for budget approval, for instance, for procurement. So how can we continue the work while we are launching other processes? And I think this is key if you want to make it a success.
Organizational agility.
Yeah.
So let me continue on this exact point, and I would give you a question from the audience. So we discussed that it's difficult to measure. Sometimes it's difficult to compare before and after or current. So how do you convince higher management that agility is a tool that can be used on an organizational context, as Daniel says? It's not an IT, and that it's worthwhile investing into doing it. So I would like to, ask Thierry and Daniel and Katerina from the different perspectives to give us their opinion. Thierry?
If you want, I can start. So I've been confronted with this, especially internally at PwC, and I think I would take it the other way, and I would tell them, look, what is the outcome that you get with the way we are working today, especially on innovation? Do you believe as an organization that your innovation processes are effective, are working well, that you deliver a lot of innovation? And then top management says, yeah, no, we're investing and the outcome is slow, is not worth the money. And so I tell them, look, you want to try something different? Let's work differently. Let's work Agile. And then people, they don't understand what Agile is, but if you tell them it's a way to work differently and have more chances to succeed in innovation, they listen to you, and you can convince management like that, I think.
Katerina, what do you think?
Okay, when you're talking to management, everything comes up to money, to figures, okay? So as it was, I think from Daniel also mentioned, okay, I just need to open and close a parenthesis. For us, the Agile transformation came from our people in 2018, where they wanted to change the way that we're working at INTRASOFT. And also the management accepted it really easy. So I didn't face any of these problems, but, resistance from the management to go to this side. But when you say to management that, you know what, you will see better the risks. I think Daniel mentioned that. That's very, very important when you are, let's say, project oriented as we are, as in at INTRASOFT, where you're going to land when you see the risks much more faster. That's very important. When you say that, you know what, I don't know if I will manage to bring a better profit or even speed and delivery, but people like this way, the engagement, that's also a very important factor for the IT world to keep your people. That was very important for INTRASOFT. Even if you don't improve fully your financial figures, because as I said, that's an aspect for an organization to see and to test your management also, how much they're people oriented also. So, and of course, bring on board your clients to bring it also together with what Daniel mentioned previously. If you have one client, two clients of yours, major clients that want that, okay, your top management will say, okay, I'm also going to do this. Bring one of your clients on board and see. So that was my 5 cents.
Thanks, Katerina. Thanks, Thierry. Daniel, from your perspective?
I like what Katerina just said about bringing one of your clients on board, because it's very close to what I was mentioning about finding an ally, finding someone within your ecosystem who is willing to be the first to break that chicken and egg situation. But from the convincing part is, the word convincing is strange, because the truth is Agile has actually become the dominant discourse in industry now, believe it or not. It's been around since 1986, and the people, the organizations that are not actually part of the Agile industrial complex now in one way, shape, or form are actually the late minority. But this being said, if you do find yourself in a situation where you still do need to have some convincing to do, then again, to Katerina's point and to what Thierry was saying and what we've all been saying, you have to bring it back. You can't be just quoting articles and white papers. You have to bring it down to what they're interested in as an organization, and what are upper management have objectives that they too are being measured on. They're human as well, right? So you have to bring it back to controlling, addressing risk better. One argument that I found very successful with one client at one point, with the I don't know argument. First of all, it's never okay to outright say I don't know. That's just hiding behind Agile. The truth is, let's say you are in IT, you do know. You've been doing it for years. It's not because all of a sudden it's Agile that you forget how to do business analysis, or you forget how to develop, or you forget how to test. You've done similar projects in the past. You have an idea. You can't, now we're doing Agile. We don't know how to estimate anymore. We don't, of course you do. Just do analogous, estimation of things you've done in the past for your first Agile project. Well, the last one took 3 years. This one's going to take 3. No, just kidding. But so getting back to what I said, one thing that I had said to one client was, well, we're not quite sure where precisely we'll land in terms of the date, but previous projects of this kind have taken around 18 months. One thing we promise you, we will constantly be working on what is most important to you if you play your role. We will constantly give you the opportunity to change and move things around and readjust those priorities. We will constantly be outputting tested quality work that will actually increment so that you can release it anytime. You can stop at any time. I had an experience once where we showed after 20% of the functionality of one feature, the client said, stop. I'm taking that $700,000 back out of your budget. What you delivered is fine. I don't need the rest. Now you could say, oh my God, they took money off our team. What are we going to do? No, that was an organizational success, right? It went back to, the money went back to the portfolio where it belonged and it was reallocated elsewhere. That's the value of simplicity that is in one of the Agile principles. I actually experienced that. I was on the receiving end of the value of simplicity. Okay, stop taking your money away from you. Means we did our job. That's what an Agilist does. An Agilist will actually create something simple that works rather than gold plate. So sorry, there's a lot packed into my multi-threaded answer here, but you have to bring people into the conversation. You have to basically work with them, not against them, and improve slowly and experiment. And eventually, once this thing starts having momentum, everybody wants on board. As soon as especially in large organizations, anyone smelling success will want to be part of it, right? So the momentum becomes of its own.
Yeah, so it's not easy, but it's not difficult as well. It's just a different way of, focusing things, I guess.
It's sort of, once it gets rolling, it becomes unstoppable.
There's a momentum, as you said.
Yeah,
so,
momentum.
As we have been discussing this week about discipline agile, this is more or less a rather new approach. I would like to ask Frank and Anya, how about discipline agile? Can discipline agile help into this transformation journey? Is a good framework to base your transformation journey upon? Frank?
Yeah, first of all, Discipline Agile as a hybrid process toolkit brings really, really many methods and instruments, starting from predictive over SAFe, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, and many, many other methodologies. It's not only a collection of all what is existing in the Agile world. It's a really, really good developed toolkit, what we can use to apply in the organizations regarding the context and the situation, what is needed. And that's why I have about 25 years of project management experience. Also, I'm not coming from the theory side, I come from the practical side. And I would recommend you must start to see what is behind Discipline Agile. First of all, I would give only a less answer. What about certification? The certification is no guarantee to be successful with everything. It's not a certification itself, but you can also read 10 books about swimming and then jump in the river and you will see where you end. The thing is the training on the topics and the training to apply the instruments and the methods. And then you can see that this helps the organizations because we can pick out what we need in this context. And that's why I think Discipline Agile is actually with this view as non-framework, as process toolkit, what can help the organizations to start their Agile journey, to start their Agile evolution. That's my last word from this side. Please, Daniel.
Thanks, Frank. I was hoping Anya can give us her opinion. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say, looking at the question from Prabhakar, which is what you're referring to, right? In the chat, I think this is exactly the strength. This is the forte of Discipline Agile. That is, especially if there's something already going on, Discipline Agile can help you navigate around that. And so you don't have to switch to something entirely new, but it brings more discipline. So I really believe in that, which is why I'm kind of repeating that point because it's so important to me. I can give an example actually. So seeing that right now we're all kind of forced to be remote teams at all times, and I'm also part of some of those. We can, for example, see that some teams struggle with keeping touch with each other. For example, in Discipline Agile, you can find process goal diagrams that also a good trainer and consultant and coach could help you also use better. But just as an example, you can find there the suggestion that you maybe have someone like an ambassador who helps remote teams reach out to each other and have remote team building going on. And that role of an ambassador for the remote team, you could have from someone in the team you could appoint to be in that role. You could also have that role rotate. There are so many things that you can find as kind of suggestions, possible solutions, and that's not all Discipline Agile offers, but a part of it. But just to show maybe that it seems like an easy answer, but the comprehensiveness of all those approaches and giving you also guidance with what can help when can really help you find things that tackle your concrete problems and your situations in Agile teams and on organizational level or on team level or even both. So that's just, that makes it, I think, so helpful that you can find potential solutions to your problems that you can try out and continuously improve from there, like guided continuous improvement that Discipline Agile offers for me. Extremely powerful, and no matter where you are and where you stand.
Thank you, Antje. I'm afraid time flies when you're having fun because we are at the end of our session and I know Frank has to leave for the training. So first of all, I would like to thank all the panel participants and I would like to thank all attendees for joining us today. Before we finish, salesman in me cannot resist the opportunity to see that we have a prominent PMI figure in our audience, Mr. Oliver Lehmann. So as a PMI director of events, quick sales speech, if you want to work with our chapter, you're more than welcome to contact me afterwards. I would also like to thank our sponsors for the Agile Week, as well as our chapter sponsors. In the chat, we will copy paste all the PDUs from the entire week in case you have missed any. And this is the PDU for the current session. And also we will link all the LinkedIn profiles in case you want to connect with any of our today's speakers. So once again, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you all.
In today's
Alan,
session.
I think that we might need to find another opportunity to have this, continue this, the conversation, discussion, because it was really, really interesting. And
Yes,
there are so many questions.
It seems to me that maybe 1 hour and a half would have been more appropriate, but it's a lessons learned for next time.
Yeah, that's being agile.
That's our retrospective this moment. Thank you very much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys.
For
Thanks,
all your
everyone.
support throughout the week.
Afternoon.
Thank you.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye all.
Thank you.